Can reconvene our meeting to open session. The board has been in executive session since 6:30 to discuss some personnel matters. We could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We could have introductions.
Dave Hurst. Chris Meyer.
Wendy Sampson.
Jody Monroe.
Holly Dellenbaugh.
Meredith Moriarty.
Willow Bear.
Christine Beck.
Jonathan Fishbein.
And Judy Kehoe.
Do we have any PIG students with us tonight? Yeah. Welcome, welcome. Your obligation is to stay until 9 o'clock or when the meeting is over, whichever comes first. And when we are done, come on up and there's sign-out sheets up here. And if you guys need a signature, you can see any board member. First on our agenda is approval of the minutes. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the December 4th, 2019 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. Next up is the Student Senate report. Do we have anybody here from the Student Senate?
Hello, I'm from Senate. So today we had a meeting and we discussed our plans for the upcoming snowball dance on February 8th. And we're planning a spirit week for the week before to get everybody into it. And then two senators had a meeting with Domel today to talk about the courtyard. And we're thinking between the B and C wing, and they're gonna start looking for picnic tables and materials for the courtyard.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody with us tonight from the middle school?
My name is Naomi Tinsman. I'm an 8th grader in the Hudson House. Last week we collected nearly 70 boxes for our holiday food drive, and our homerooms did a great job of collecting all the non-perishable foods. Members of our character committee met last night, after school today, to sort and label our first round of character t-shirts. These will be delivered to our staff and students tomorrow morning. We hope to get all the t-shirts for our parents who ordered through the parent store within the next week, and this is the example of the new design that they created. Tickets will go on sale January 7th, 8th, and 9th for the Frozen musical at the middle school. The tickets will be out to the public Wednesday, January 8th from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. in the middle school main lobby. Saturday, January 11th from 10 to 12 p.m. in the lobby again. And student sales will be in the cafeteria during their lunch period. Thank you.
Thanks, Naomi. Next is our superintendent's report.
Sure. Just a quick update on construction. We toured around this evening, and we had originally planned to have the LMC open at the high school over the break, so when students came back it would be ready to go, but it is delayed slightly, as we saw. So the new date is January 15th, so we're hoping that that stays as is, and we'll be able to get back into the library before the end of the month.
Was it the 15th was when the construction was done, and the 18th was when we can get
And
in?
we would
Okay.
get back in there, so. Also, we did have our holiday caring and sharing program this past Saturday. I'd like to again thank all the students, staff, parents who helped contribute to that. It was a big success. It's really a great event, and it's great to see all of the schools participate in it and come together. And finally, we have a lot of fall athletes here. We had, I think everyone's aware, we had a great fall season. And Mr. Keys is here to acknowledge some of our teams and individuals who had exemplary seasons. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Keys.
Thank you.
my outside voice. Oh, there we go. Well, as most of you know, we do this 3 times a year at the conclusion of our fall, winter, and spring seasons. We've just had incredibly successful seasons from our individual athletes to our teams. And as you've probably heard me say before, this is one of my favorite nights of the year where in front of our Board of Education, our community, we get to kind of celebrate some of the accomplishments. I want to go back a couple of slides. First off, most important is the success in our classrooms. We had several teams this fall as scholar athlete teams. These are teams that had 90 or above averages, and New York State Public High School Athletic Association gives them these distinguishments. So girls cross country, field hockey, both our boys and girls golf teams, boys and girls soccer, and girls swim and dive. I'd like to give you a round of applause for doing it in the classroom and on the court. Congratulations. So the first athlete I'd like to honor, and I'd like her to come on up, is freshman Riley Davis. Come on up, Riley. And by the way, I would like to introduce our county executive, Dan McCoy. Dan's going to help me congratulate our athletes tonight. So a little bit about Riley. She was a state qualifier. She took 7th place at the Suburban Council Championships, 8th place at the Class A sectionals, 13th at the state championships. She was named All-State and is a Suburban Council All-Star. She was coached by Jack Reitmeyer. Jack couldn't make it tonight, but I'm thrilled that Coach Rickert, if you're here, I know you are, he's here to support Riley, so thank you, Coach. Congratulations, Riley. Varsity girls swim and dive, an amazing, incredible season. Coached by Carrie Ann Santacola. They tied with an undefeated record of 7 wins, no losses, 1 tie in the very tough Suburban Council. We won the Section 2 Division I championship and came in 5th place at the state team championship. So an incredible job, and obviously scholar athlete team. So I was telling Coach, because we have a very large roster, and you'll see up on the PowerPoint, we have state qualifiers, we have Section 2 individual event champions, but I'm going to read off the events that we had our Section 2 champions because I don't want them to be missed. And just stay in your seats, kids, until I obviously call your name later on. But Section 2 champions, we had the 200 intermediate medley, Sydney Sorbello, 200 mixed relay, Sydney Sorbello, Ella Kabak, Maddie Ferreira, Megan Novak, the 50 free Section 2 champion, also Sydney Sorbello, the 100 free champion, Megan Novak, the 100 backstroke champion, Sydney Sorbello, the 200 freestyle relay team of Sydney Sorbello, Rebecca Baldwin, Anna Bernasconi, and Maggie Hartman, and the 400 free, Maggie Hartman, Maddie Ferreira, Anna Bernasconi, and Megan Novak, all section champions, and obviously that's what catapulted us to our team section championship. So congratulations, girls. We also had several young ladies qualify for states. Sydney Sorbello, Anna Bernasconi, Megan Novak, Maddie Ferreira, Ella Kabak, Courtney Sorbello, Maggie Hartman, our divers, Ms. Aronson and Earlywine, and of course, our little Ferreira, all made state qualifiers. So congratulations, round of applause for them. I'm almost ready to start listing our names, but I just wanted to make sure that these young ladies who worked so hard get their accomplishments stated. Maggie Hartman was named the New York State Sportsmanship Award winner for Section 2 at the NISFA Championship, so congratulations. And Sydney Sorbello was the Times Union Girls Swim and Dive Athlete of the Year, so congratulations. All right, ladies. Caitlin Acosta, come on up. Robin Arneson. Where would you like them now? Robin? You're not here. Okay. Isabella Atek. Rebecca Baldwin. Anna Bernasconi. Sarah Bernasconi. Kaylee Bigwarf. Abby Campbell. Cecilia Chow. Charlotte Clark. Lucia DeToya. Olivia Dodge. Maya Earlywine. Maeve Engelbride. Jasmine Fischetti. Thank you for remembering me. Mia Farley. Oh, where do we go? What happened? Okay, here we go. Catherine Ferreira. Maddie Ferreira. Hannah Fraunheiser. Emily Gerard. Allison Gray. Maggie Hartman. Caroline Hennessy. Olivia Hopper. Natalie Jada. Uka Jerabek. Ella Kabak. Catherine McKenna. Audrey Nadeau. Cameron Nichols. Megan Novak. Annika Packer. Margaret Reynolds. Lauren Savage. Olivia Scusa. Courtney Sorbello. Sydney Sorbello. Michaela Valerian. Caitlin Valerian. Ellen Winnie, and Helen Zhang. And Coach Kerry Ann Sanicola, come on up. Section 2 Coach of the Year in my book. Congratulations, ladies. And now for our girls soccer team. Suburban Council regular season champions, undefeated, 13-0 in the league. By the way, back-to-back regular season champions, 18-2 overall. Section 2 AA champions for second consecutive year and New York State regional finalists, and spent a good portion of the season in the USA Today top 15 national ranking. So congratulations, girls, right there. All right, ladies, when you hear your name, come on down. Maya Dawson. Suburban Council All-Star. Amanda Doherty. Casey Holstein. Katie Hoteling. Ruth Hoteling. Ruth was a Section 2 AA All-Star, All-State, Suburban Council All-Star. Claire Hutton, Regional All-American, New York State AA Player of the Year, Section 2 AA All-Star, All-State, Suburban Council All-Star. Hello. Sorry, buddy. Suburban Council Offensive Player of the Year, and this year broke the single-season Bethlehem record, which was established by Bethlehem great Grace Hoteling a year ago. I want to just put it into perspective. Claire is in the 8th grade, and Claire, for the very first time in New York State history, was named the AA, large school, Player of the Year. Player of the Year. She hasn't gotten to high school yet. So we have a very special player on our hands. Beatrice Jones, Suburban Council All-Star. Maya Lamav. Chase Livesey. Marissa Mastraco, Suburban Council All-Star. Anna Nichols, another 8th grader, double-digit goals. Big future ahead for Anna. Ciara Ryan, Suburban Council All-Star. Katie Sellers, Suburban Council All-Stars. Maddie Sinek. Sophia Soka. Joanna Van Royen. Joanna's a Section 2 AA All-Star, All-State, and a Suburban Council All-Star. And I want Coach Tom Rogan to come on up. Section 2 AA Coach of the Year, Suburban Council Coach of the Year. Does an outstanding job of running this program. Round of applause for our girls. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I want to thank our Board of Education, our district office, and our community for the incredible support that you give to our student athletes, our coaches, and winter is off to a great start. So I'm sure we'll see very many of our athletes and hopefully a couple of our teams sometime in March. So have a happy holiday. Thank you.
Is he here? Yeah, Anna. It's a lot of pens. It's a lot of pens. Are you seeing her play? I don't know. She wants to be in the front row.
But you know, this is the time to do
Oh, there you go.
Did you have anything else?
No, that's my report.
Next up on the agenda is the board report. First, I want to thank Greg Nolte for giving us a tour of the construction earlier this evening. It was nice to see what's happening, particularly in the LMC and in the auditorium. I also wanted to congratulate the cast and crew of Museum and Amy Roos for her direction of the play. I had a chance to see it, and it was very funny, and everybody did a great job. And I also had a chance to hear both a 7th and an 8th grade concert at the middle school this past week. And again, congratulations to all of the performers and to their instructors, because everyone did a great job. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to add?
I attended the Chris Porter fundraiser at Eagle. I don't know how much they made, but it was very well attended. It's for a very good cause. It's the scholarship that is in Chris Porter's name, who was a beloved 5th grade teacher at Eagle.
Christine?
Just to encourage everybody to come out to the winter concert series that starts at the high school January 6th. I think it's Monday, January 6th that it starts, and it's 3 nights, I believe, and it's always a great concert to see. I also saw the museum, and it was very funny. They did a great job, and it was nice to see so many kids included.
I guess I just wanted to say thank you to our O&M and transportation crews for the last week or two dealing with early dismissals and snow removal and ice removal and rounding up kids and getting them on and off buses safely during the weather. I think they probably don't get enough gratitude from parents, so I just wanted to say that I appreciate all of that.
Wendy?
I also attended museum and thought it was very innovative and very funny. And the kids obviously had a very good time, and it was a fun show.
Sure. I attended the Hammer Girl Craft Fair and was mobbed. A great event. It's a little scary because it's the 36th year, and I did the math, which means I was probably at the first. So, holy crud. And the only thing I'd like to complain about the craft fair is that they put the kettle corn right by the door. So you and your kids, you cannot get by the kettle corn without buying like the biggest bag possible and eating it all. So yeah, it's very good.
Next on the agenda is our presentation this evening on writing at the high school level by Andy Baker.
I'm not going to call him Baker. I love them. They're great. So thank you for allowing us to share with you tonight. Our ELA department, our English Language Arts department, is working very hard the last few years on the writing program. At a time when information is so instantaneous and fragmented, the development of writing and the skills associated with writing becomes more and more challenging, and we're aware of that. But throughout the past few years, like I had said, our ELA department has evolved and continues to grow through professional development, peer collaboration that Mr. Baker is heading, and the integration of technology itself through resources such as Turnitin that Mr. Baker will discuss further in the presentation. But I just want to, before I hand it over to Mr. Baker, I want to take this opportunity to thank him and his department for all the work they've done to develop the rigor and consistency that we've been striving for throughout the last few years. So thank you, Andy.
Thank you. All right, that's it. We're done. Any questions? No, okay. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate the kind words. And I would just say right back, not that I want to turn this into a love fest, but right back at you, the support we've received from the administration, from the school, from central administration has really allowed us to do our work, and I'll say to continue to do the best job we can and continue to grow as a department. So we really appreciate all that support. So again, just to introduce myself again, I'm Andy Baker. I'm the ELA supervisor for the district. And I want to thank the Board of Education for this opportunity to present on our program. I put together an overview of kind of multiple facets of the program, not only writing, but of course I will delve into the writing as well. And really a true English program should be, an integrated program with all of those skills together anyway, so kind of hard to talk about one without talking about the others. This is our mission statement that we came up with through our program review several years back. There is also language in the handbook that describes kind of the mission of the high school department in particular. This is sort of a district-wide focus. So we're in the process of transitioning to the next generation learning standards, which I think next year is the first year of full implementation, so to speak. Really, these standards are kind of the next iteration of the Common Core learning standards. They're really not that different when you look at them on their face, but I like to highlight that philosophically and some of the shifts that were made to the next gen standards are much more age appropriate, much more looking at the student as a whole child, focus on early childhood education. So that we think there's a lot of positives. In terms of the high school, really aren't a lot of changes to speak of. One thing that there's still the strands of writing that are expected to be taught, and students are expected to be able to engage in the informative or informational, actually, narrative, and argument writing. They talk about reading or literary experiences. They really focus and highlight blending lots of experiences, not just printed text, but other forms of text, such as digital text, giving students experiences with paired passages, using the ability for speaking and listening, engaging in speaking and listening activities centered around reading and writing. So those are all considered literary experiences. So I tried to broaden that so they can, have a more of a, just to make sure that students are being provided with diverse experiences with regard to literacy in the classroom. So with our new standards, this is kind of, obviously not all of the pieces, but these are many of the aspects that what does it look like in the classroom? So what are the skills or things that students we should be doing as we're aligning our practices to these standards? And you can see the increase of informational text in the curriculum. You can look at the synthesis of ideas across texts where looking to try to have experiences where students can read multiple texts and be able to, kind of write about them where they're taking ideas from both texts and synthesizing them together. Kind of reading one text and laying that over another text and kind of reading it through that lens. So for example, we'll have teachers who will create activities where they read a novel and then they read a nonfiction article on a theme in the novel, and they are to find evidence in the text that supports the ideas that are described in the nonfiction text. I recently saw a lesson where this was done with regard to birth order and the importance of birth order in one of the books that this teacher was reading with the students, and how do the characters in the book, display the types of ideas that scientists and others have said about birth order. And obviously that connects with kids, and there's lots of different things you can do with that. In terms of the English Regents, it's given to 11th graders. It is a Common Core exam. First exam we administered was in 2016 as a Common Core. And there are 3 sections. There's multiple choice. There's an argument essay where students are writing from sources to write about a topic, and you choose a side and give evidence from the sources. And also there's a text analysis where they have to decide what the central theme is in a text, a short text, usually a memoir or some type of, it's usually a fiction or memoir excerpt or speech or some kind of a literary text where they're pulling out what strategies is the author using to advance a central idea, essentially. We do have common assessments in grades 9 through 11, which I'm going to pop on that on the next slide after this slide. So this slide here shows a trend in our Regents results over the last few years. And you can see, when we went to Common Core, it was quite a buzz. I'm a member of the local Capital District Supervisors Association for the English Language Arts, and there were lots of conversations and lots of, kind of fear in the middle of the night, people waking up in cold sweats, like what's going to happen to our kids when we transition to the new exam, because the new exam was different from the old exam. But as you can see, our students have continued to be successful. In fact, we've kind of inched up and sort of a little bit plateaued a little bit in terms of percent mastery and the mean scores, but we've held a consistent high level of performance on the English Language Arts Common Core Regents. So one of the things that we strive for in the English department at the high school is to make sure that we're balancing consistent experiences for students across courses, across teachers, but also allowing and celebrating and encouraging the differences that our teachers have in terms of the strengths that they have and what they bring to the classroom. So we have developed over the last several years common writing tasks in each grade level, 9 through 11. Senior year is a little bit different. I'll talk about that in a moment. And so every teacher in 9th grade is required, for lack of a better word, to do a narrative piece. And this is a common task with a common rubric. So there's one in narrative, there's one in argument, and there's one in the informational writing. And so in one of those pieces of writing at each grade level is used to to work with the students on preparing them for the Regents. So one of those pieces is one of the tasks that they're expected to do in the Regents. So we've kind of scaffolded it as they go up. So in 9th grade, we have them do the argument essay so that they hit it at least twice. They use the New York State rubric to assess it. Grade 10, they do the text analysis. Grade 11, they're expected to do both. That's the year they take the Regents. These are given generally mid-year, February or March could be, assessed with the rubric, and of course, using that information to inform instruction and provide needed remediation with students who demonstrate that they need, greater interventions with those skills. We are a literature-based curriculum. I say that because, it's kind of the platform from which other things come, but it's simply not just reading the book and, regurgitating facts about it. We have a philosophy in our department that when we read a book, when the students are reading a book, they shouldn't just be reading, the teachers shouldn't be teaching the book only. They should be also teaching, obviously, the skills. So we're teaching reading through that vehicle and bringing in other pieces, such as the nonfiction text and other genres to enhance the instruction with the novels. So this is the listing of the literature that we utilize in the grades 9 through 11. And as you can see, it maybe looks like a lot of the books that we read when we were in high school, but these are classics, and these are the books that our department finds ways to bring to the students' lives to make sure that their experiences in the novels are thematic. We've moved away from the simply, what county does To Kill a Mockingbird take place in, to, how does the child narrator and scout change the way the novel is told. So you can see we're shifting to a much more skills-based, involved experience with the kids and not just memorizing things about the books. You can see there's also the Regents, and then there's the Honors, which has the additional text. And in the case of grade 11, we're broken down by, basically we're broken down by the genre of text being either American literature or British literature, and you can see those texts there. So we're really proud of the different practices that the English department has advanced over the years. I have to say, really none of these things existed when I took over only a short 8 years ago. We have a lot of students and teachers that engage in very highly structured, organized, reflective discussion modes, one of them being Socratic Seminar. We've worked with local staff developers to raise the level of student writing through techniques that have students engaging in sentence level writing, in being given immediate feedback on their writing. Again, this idea of writing a paper, turning it in, and not getting it back for 6 weeks, and not getting any feedback in the whole process, really is something that we've moved away from. Yes, when students write longer papers and they turn them in, they do take several weeks to assess all of them. And when we look at process writing and we look at what students are doing, or what they're doing with the feedback they're getting back, that still does take place. But that's not the only thing we're doing. And that's the important distinction, is that there's also really that focus on even daily feedback and using technology to do that, being able to cast writing up on the board to share out and discuss as a group. The third thing we'll talk about is Poetry Out Loud. This is our 3rd year in the program. We're really proud of it. I want to highlight Andrew Rickard, who's one of our coaches who was here this evening. Mr. Rickard has brought this to our district, and this is our 3rd year, and we've had a lot of success with it. In fact, today there was a poetry coach from New York City working with students in a classroom after school, and I participated in it, and it was amazing. The kids were reciting their poems, which is amazing in and of itself. And then getting feedback from this guy who was very genuine and really got the kids he really pushed them beyond their comfort zone to express their poems in a better way, and it was amazing. Technology, we have almost every teacher is really utilizing some form of technology nowadays. And really, it's not just technology to replace things that could be done old school. It's things that are enhancing our practices. It's being able to provide feedback. It's being able to engage in the use of Google Classroom for message boards, when, there's things where when during the Socratic discussion, kids are posting on an online platform their comments and their thoughts, and those things are running, and it's this vibrant sharing environment that technology creates. Clearly things that you couldn't do without it that do enhance the learning environment. This is our course sequence that we have going from 8th grade as students move up through 9th, 10th, and it looks a bit, it's a little confusing when you first look at it, but if you think this is confusing, you haven't seen math's course sequence. That's really quite a, but anyway. There's a multitude of, before I referenced senior year, and there's a multitude of electives that students can take. They're really courses that, because students need a credit per year or 4 total credits to graduate. So when they get to senior year, they're either taking a full year course, such as an AP class, and we did add AP language and composition this year. We're running 1 section, and we're hoping that we're going to continue to run at least a section of it, maybe more. Or students could take 2 half-year electives. And they can add additional electives as they would like to, as there's room and their schedule will allow as well. And our elective program's really grown. We have a lot of really exciting offerings and exciting things going on. This is a little more of a description of our electives. I apologize, I know it's hard to read far away. I know you guys have a copy where you can look at this up close. I do have this as a document if you'd like me to share it. I also want to highlight that we also did, as a department, develop an internal document where we have guidelines for our writing program that go into more detail, and I can share that with you as well. Mr. Domel and I were speaking about that today, and I'd be happy to share it if you'd like to take a look at it. And there's a chart on there that lays out the 3 pieces per grade level and other things, expectations about feedback and protocols around returning papers. Mr. Domel mentioned Turnitin.com. Turnitin is I would say it's an online submission program where students can submit papers through Turnitin. They actually call it the feedback studio. And the reason they do that is because it creates an opportunity for students to be provided feedback about their writing in a way that many feel surpasses what they're able to do either traditionally or even in Google Classroom. It also does have the ability to gauge how much text is copied from other texts, so you can see how that could be able to identify plagiarism. But it's not a tool that's intended to be a gotcha tool with students. It's intended to be used in an educational way. And many teachers actually use it in an effective way to be able to have students not physically, but visually evaluate how much text is theirs and how much they've used from sources when writing certain things, and they want to have certain parameters around those types of aspects of writing. So it really helps students to see it visually. It shows them a percentage. I apologize, I don't have a slide on Turnitin. It was more just kind of an added-on thing to talk about. But again, if you are interested, I can share with you those writing guidelines I just referenced, and that really concludes the kind of the formal presentation. So with that, thank you so much, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take any.
Andy, I would like to see those guidelines.
Sure, yeah, I can share those. It's a Google Doc. I'll download them. Best way maybe is to forward them to Jody, and she can pass them on to the board.
I can put them in the updates Friday.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
And it's an evolving document. It's not a fixed, we're always looking at it and revising and adding to it. And it's in different colors, and it looks very much like, you'll have to take a moment to sort of parse through it, but you'll be able to understand what you're seeing. And it's been helpful to have a little bit more of a some protocols that are established, at least so that the goal is that students across a course and across whatever teacher is teaching the course have a consistent experience in those classes.
Can you talk a little bit about feedback on writing and how you're working with teachers to do that consistently? What kind of feedback to be giving to students on
Sure.
writing?
It really depends on what they're writing. It could look like in a classroom where so a lot of our high school teachers have adopted kind of a workshop approach that's utilized at the middle school. And so students are working on a writing piece, and the teacher is available to confer with students as to whatever aspects of the paper either the student identifies that they need help with, or it's also being done in shorter units where students are writing. One of the things we've looked at is really focusing on having students write sentences or paragraphs and analyzing those to make sure that they're coherent, that there's a coherent message, that the details that are being used are appropriate. And it's hard to do that when you've got the traditional English teacher with a stack of papers on the desk, and they're kind of evaluating everything for every student. And students are just getting the paper back and looking for the grade. So we've tried to take that feedback experience, make it more transparent to students, make it more immediate, and provide opportunities using technology as well to put on the screen student writing and have the teacher break it down with every student working with their paper, and the teacher can teach to a teaching point into that paper, but that all students are expected to then go back and revise the writing they have to reflect the teaching points that are made. So those are a couple of brief examples as to how feedback can be much more dynamic in the classroom than just the simple, let me grade your paper and give it back to you weeks later.
Okay. Chris?
Sure. A few questions. First, I was looking at the list of electives, and there were two that really popped out to me. Professional communication and college composition. I really like those two courses because those are the two that really looked like they were getting kids ready for the next level. Having a kid write a cover letter or a resume or anything that's of the professional sort that they would need to do. The only problem is they're electives, so not a lot of kids are going to take them as compared to the full student body. Is there a way to incorporate more of those into other classes or to open those up to more people?
I mean, the short answer is no, in the sense that right now we don't, our program is such that if students choose those courses, they get that experience, but I wouldn't be able to stand up here and tell you that all of those experiences are being done in every class. That said, we will have as many sections of these courses as students request to take. And college composition has been it's evolved a lot, let's just say, since I've been here. It's gotten to be much more consistent across teachers that teach it. It's all of the college comp sections are taught in the fall so that students can work on the college essay. Professional communication is a new course that's run the last couple of years, and it's run with 1 or 2 sections a year. Again, not a course that every student necessarily needs, but a course that for certain students who those skills would really be better fit for, it's a great fit and it works really well. We've talked about this in our department, and we've talked about the idea that maybe every kid should have the same class in the fall and then get to choose electives in the spring. The reason we haven't really moved in that direction is because we feel that we have a program where we have a very diverse array of electives that appeal to a large number of students, and we don't want to limit students, and every one of our electives is rigorous in its own way and is important in its own way. And so we feel that one of the strengths of our senior program is our elective program because there's something for everyone, and students can tap in and enjoy what they're doing. And if we force them to do something, I think it would lose that. What makes it special.
Yeah,
right
I think
now.
you have a very valid point in that. I know that those are skills that kids really need, and so. Because I'm looking like.
For sure, I agree.
If these classes are still here when my kids are of this age, I'm going to tell my sons that professional communication class sounds like a fantastic thing. So this is how you write an email. We're not writing it to your buddies. We're writing it to a professional, and this is what you need to do.
For sure. And a lot of those skills are taught in other classes in different ways. Obviously, the standards and the skills cut across all the classes. It may not be a cover letter, but it may be talking about expressing yourself in a coherent way and being able to communicate, in a way, getting your point across in a way that's effective. So those things happen in theater arts.
Yeah.
So, it's a great point, though. Hopefully they'll still be running.
Another question. I had a question about the books that you had choice for 9th, 10th, and 11th. It's funny because I looked at the list and said, those are some of the ones that I read, know, and I want kids to read like The Great Gatsby. I want them to read To Kill a Mockingbird. But is there any discussion about keeping the vast majority of that, but throwing in a more modern, contemporary novel?
Yeah, there is, and conversations have happened, and while in the survey courses we haven't had a lot of change with regard to the texts that have been taught, there are, I'll say this, we've had, in the AP courses, we've had a lot of new books that have been added over the last few years that are trying to represent different, trying to represent diversity in different ways. There is also a book that teachers can choose to teach in addition to the ones that are on that list, which I didn't highlight, so I'm glad you asked this question, where they can bring in a different book. And we've had teachers in 9th and 10th grade bring in other texts, to broaden those experiences for students.
But I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth on this, because I don't want to sit here and think that I want you to stop teaching To Kill a Mockingbird. Please teach To Kill a Mockingbird.
I don't think that one's going anywhere.
So many of these. Please, 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 don't throw everything out. But just, if you do 4, could 3 be the classics and the 4th be a more contemporary novel with more of a diverse protagonists that would connect with more people?
Yeah, it's a conversation we've had, and these are not locked in stone. They've been there that way a long time. Right now, there's no new titles being recommended by the teachers at those grade levels, but it's a concept that could certainly happen with conversations with teachers, and if we decide to go in that direction, I'm not opposed to it at all.
Okay. And then just the final question was something, because I was looking at the pathway.
Yeah.
And just from my own personal, I was going from grade 10 to grade 11. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, boy, I want to be in the honors class. That would be Brit Lit. But if I go to Brit Lit, I miss American Lit. And so I'd miss great things like The Great Gatsby.
Right.
Is there any way to get those? So say I go to a Brit Lit in 11th grade. Is there any way in 12th grade to have an American novel course? So for people that missed the...
No, but AP Literature and Composition actually teaches The Great Gatsby.
Oh,
so they kind of recognize that that's a big,
that's what I was
big
just
rock
about.
in literature, right? So that's a way to do it. The Brit Lit program is something that the teachers, it's something that does a lot with in terms of preparing students in different ways for the next level. And yeah, to answer your question, they do teach that. That's an example of a title that's taught in 12th grade.
Okay, yeah, just because the honors, the Brit Lit course would be one that I know a lot of kids would love, but, there's so many wonderful books from the 20th century that, from the American novel that kids would love too.
They also do things they carried as a summer reading before they go into AP, so there's actually 2. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Do you have any questions? I have a few questions.
Okay.
So with the writing program, I'm assuming 9th, 10th builds to 11th grade and taking the Regents exam at the end of 11th grade.
Right.
So when we take the 11th grade Regents exam, is there feedback to higher ed regarding like test questions or writing skills that they're testing to? So for instance, last year at the 11th grade Regents, there was a lot of questions regarding some of the essay questions that came, and so some of the discussion, even some of the teachers didn't understand how to interpret the text that was provided on the exam. So that we're using that test as kind of like a gauge to see how our students are doing, but it's a little concerning if the teachers don't understand how to interpret the questions. So how do we ensure we're not just teaching to get to the teaching to the test for 11th grade, and that we're ensuring that our students are able to write at college level by the time they graduate? So for instance, they're able to write with, I think it's MLGA, is it MLGA, is that, or MLA standards? Sorry.
Citation.
MLA standards. How are we ensuring that in courses that they're able to do that upon graduation? And I know everybody learns at a different level, but.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we're definitely not simply teaching to the test. And I highlighted some of those common pieces that we do at each grade level to prepare students for the test, because the test is our, barometer that we want to measure kids by as they leave, as a comprehensive exam of the skills that have been taught. But if we were only teaching to the test, we wouldn't be doing nearly enough of the job we need to do to prepare students for college and beyond. So there's a host of activities that happen centered around, like I talked about before, centered around students reading across different texts and being able to synthesize ideas, doing research and embedding and incorporating research into pieces of writing that may be about a novel or about personal experiences. So there's that. We work with the social studies department closely. In fact, this past Monday we met as a department jointly to discuss how do we build skills in English to support the research that's happening in social studies. We have our own research standards. In ninth grade, all the students are going to do a annotated bibliography to evaluate sources, because we feel that, you know, a lot of times with research, kids just jump on Google and, you know, they just get whatever, you know, Joe Schmo's website. And so we really have to go back and teach them how information literacy and how to look at media in a way that look at what's credible, what sources are credible. So all of those things go way beyond the text analysis response on the regions. And I think what you're referring to is that passage that they used was an excerpt from a piece that was written like in the late 1800s.
Yeah.
It wasn't the task that was confusing. The concern was the text that was chosen, that it had
Yes.
this archaic language, and, you know, why would we want to put something in front of kids? And that goes back to the standards of getting kids to closely read and be able to read difficult text, and that's something we do as well. And if they can read Beowulf, our kids didn't have a problem with that task, by the way.
No.
So, you know, I think, great question. There's a lot we do. It goes way beyond just the test.
So I guess where I was going with that is we use that as a gauge, but how do teachers give feedback to the students that I'm not sure you're quite at college level in your writing and interpreting text? So it's kind of a combo, as you said, you have to do one in conjunction with the other. So
Right.
how do you know if a student's not comprehending at a college level and a writing level? Because there's not assessments like there are in middle school to do the little yearly tests in reading to make sure that they're still moving on.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, in 9th and 10th grade, we're not necessarily, I don't think that the way the question is framed suggests that in 9th grade we're looking at a college, like there's a set of things called college expectations and we're holding them in front of kids. It doesn't really work like that. I can't tell you what I know what colleges are looking for per se, but what we're doing is we're using rubrics that are geared towards having students working towards skills that are higher level skills, that are consistent across the grade level. We do use the state rubric because we feel that it's a good rubric to give kids a chance to measure against what they're going to look at when they get to the regions. But we look at other rubrics too. And it's the idea of, you know, we don't have an iReady in high school, if that's what you're asking.
No, that's what I was saying.
But
We don't have iReady, so how do we ensure?
Teachers have reading assessments that they develop that they use with students to determine where students are with regard to the skills and how they can move students along that skill development. So, you know, in some ways it's better because we have the ability to really be more in tune with where kids are at their own levels. But as far as comparing to college, I can't really answer that because I don't know.
Okay.
I can't say for sure. Like, kids don't come in and they sit down and, you know what I mean?
No, I know it's different. I was just curious how we would assess, you know, a senior because they're taking electives or at the end of junior year to make sure, besides the Regents exam, because there was definitely a grade bump once we went to the
Right.
Common Core Regents exam versus the older Regents. So it's not necessarily going to be a gauge of whether or not the students are coming out with the appropriate writing skills or reading interpretation.
I mean, the advanced placement courses are different. Those are
Yes.
courses where they're looking at, you know, criteria and standards that are set by the College Board as, you know, college ready.
Okay.
In terms of the other courses as they're working up, those are developed across the grade level. They're looked at in terms of rigor, in terms of meeting the standards, and then we're consistently comparing students' progress against that set of standards to determine growth.
Okay.
And so it kind of is a little more of its own little ecosystem as opposed to, you know, a nationally normed kind of assessment, but
Yep.
yeah,
All right. Great. Thank you.
sure.
Anything else? I think that's it for questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And happy holidays to everybody. Have a good evening.
Next on our agenda is recognition of visitors on an agenda item. If we have any visitors here tonight who would like to speak on an agenda item, now would be the time to come forward. And if you could just state your name for everyone.
Sure. My name's Bill Davis. I'm a parent of 2 kids in the district and 1 graduate from 2018. I'm here on the topic of athletics. I just wanted to thank the superintendent, the board, and the athletic director for supporting budgets and policies to support cross-country and track, and their traveling to quality meets outside of the Capital District. Right now we're in indoor track, and it's really important that the team continue to have the support to go to meets outside of the area. The tracks in this area at Union College is only 160 meters, and at U Albany it's a very short track. It's almost like a square track, and a lot of the achievements for the kids really can be best measured at meets down around New York City and also Ithaca, New York. So, but that's been, the good news is we've had support for a number of years on those trips, and we hope that as the budget decisions are made and for this next year that continues. And I also wanted to thank everyone for support for traveling for cross country. You would think that maybe that's not really needed because you're just running on grass and all that. But for cross country, what's required is that you need to travel to a big meet. So this year and years in past, the team has traveled to Manhattan to go against big teams from all over the Eastern Seaboard. And last year, the team went out to Rochester, New York, to also to go to the McQuaid Invitational, which is a large national meet, and that helps improve your rankings for New York State. So my daughter's on the girls cross country team. So for the last 3 years, they've been going to these really big meets, and it allowed them to be recognized and ranked at a higher level. So they're able to go to what's called the Federation Championship, which is all the best cross-country teams in the state. So again, I just wanted to, on the night that we're recognizing the athletes and all that, just wanted to thank you again for the support to allow teams to travel out of state or out of the Section 2 area, which I know isn't the norm for many of the Section 2 sports. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any other visitors on an agenda item? Next on the agenda item, item 6, action items. A, finance action items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following finance action items 1 through 2.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes. B, professional personnel action items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following professional personnel action items 1 through 9.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
I just wanted to point out that we have a lot of retirements from some people who've been with us for many, many years, 34 years, 32 years, 28 years, 21 years. Just wanted to thank them for their service at our district, and they will all be sorely missed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. C, support personnel action items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following support staff action items 1 through 9.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. D, other action items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following action items 1 through 2.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just wanted to thank the policy committee for updating the language in the sexual harassment and bullying policies to update the language around non-binary, gender, transgender, and sexual orientation.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. Next is recognition of visitors on non-agenda items. If we have any visitors who would like to speak on a non-agenda item, please come forward. Item 8, future meetings and events. On Wednesday, January 8th, is our next regular board meeting here at the high school, anticipating, starting at 7, anticipating executive session starting at 6. And I assume that will be here in the cafeteria. On Monday, January 13th, here at the high school at 5:30 PM, there's an audit committee meeting, and at 6:30 PM, there's a facilities committee meeting. Wednesday, January 22nd, we have a regular board meeting at 7 PM at Ellesmere Elementary School, anticipating an executive session starting at 6. On Monday, January 27th at 6 PM, we have a policy committee meeting here at the high school. And on Wednesday, January 29th at 5:30 PM, we're scheduled to have our mid-year Board of Education retreat. Seeing no need to go back into executive session, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? PIG students, if you guys want to come up and